The Nevada desert stretched endlessly under the scorching July sun, waves of heat rising from the cracked asphalt of the abandoned airstrip. Marcus Webb sat on his rusted 1987 Honda Shadow motorcycle, his calloused hands adjusting the makeshift mount welded to the right side of the frame. Attached to it was something that made every person who saw it either laugh or shake their head in disbelief. A modified Barrett M82 sniper rifle secured with industrial clamps and reinforced steel brackets. Marcus was 42 years old, lean and weathered like the desert itself. His face told stories of too many disappointments, too many doors slammed in his face. Former Marine sniper, dishonorably discharged after questioning a superior's orders that would have put his unit in unnecessary danger. That decision cost him everything. His career, his pension, his marriage, and the respect of everyone who once called him brother. For the past 3 years, he had been living in a trailer park outside Las Vegas, working odd jobs at construction sites and gas stations. But Marcus never stopped being a marksman. Every penny he could spare went into ammunition and modifications. While other veterans drowned their sorrows in bottles or pills, Marcus drowned his in precision, in the meditation of breath control and trigger squeeze. The idea came to him during a sleepless night 6 months ago. The annual Desert Precision Challenge was the most prestigious long-range shooting competition in the western United States. 22 targets placed at various distances from 800 to 2,400 meters across 3 days of competition. The prize was $50,000 and, more importantly, recognition in the shooting community. Sponsorships, job opportunities, a chance to rebuild. But there was a catch that year. The organizers, trying to boost publicity, had added a wildcard category: unconventional shooting platforms. Shooters could use any stable platform they could devise, as long as it was mobile and could navigate the desert course. Most competitors brought custom-built shooting vehicles, trucks with hydraulic stabilizers worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Marcus brought his motorcycle and his crazy idea. When he rolled up to the registration tent that first morning, the laughter started immediately. 3 dozen competitors and twice as many spectators turned to stare. Then came the comments, barely whispered but loud enough for Marcus to hear every word. A barrel-chested man in expensive tactical gear nudged his partner. "That's the saddest thing I've ever seen. Someone actually thinks they can shoot from a motorcycle?" A woman with a professional camera crew following her actually walked over, filming Marcus as she spoke into her microphone. And here we have what might be the most optimistic or delusional entry in challenge history. "Sir, do you actually expect to hit anything with that setup?" Marcus didn't answer. He'd learned long ago that words meant nothing. Only results mattered. The registration officer, a retired Army colonel named Patterson, looked at Marcus's entry form with barely concealed skepticism. "Mr. Webb, I have to ask, have you tested this system? Do you understand that any instability, any vibration from the engine, any movement at all will throw off your accuracy by meters at these distances?" "I understand," Marcus replied quietly, his voice rough from years of not using it much. "I've tested it." Patterson stamped the form anyway. The rules allowed it, even if common sense didn't. "Your first target assignment is tomorrow morning, 0600 hours. Target Alpha 7 at 1,100 meters. You'll have 3 attempts like everyone else. Good luck, Marine. You're going to need it." That evening, Marcus set up his small camp away from the main cluster of RVs and support vehicles. While other teams grilled steaks and strategized around tables covered with ballistic computers and weather data, Marcus ate a cold sandwich and checked his equipment for the 100th time. The rifle, a weapon he'd bought piece by piece at gun shows and online auctions, was immaculate. The motorcycle mount, built from scrap metal and engineering knowledge gained from YouTube videos and trial and error, was solid. But the laughter echoed in his mind. 22 targets in 3 days. Every single one would be watching, waiting for him to fail, ready to film his humiliation for social media. The veteran who thought he was special. The washed-up Marine who couldn't accept that his best days were behind him. Marcus lay in his sleeping bag under the stars, the desert night cold against his skin. His hands didn't shake. They never had. Whatever else had fallen apart in his life, that gift remained. Steady hands, sharp eyes, and a stubborn refusal to quit. Tomorrow he would show them all what unconventional really meant. The first morning arrived with brutal clarity. Marcus woke before dawn, his breath visible in the cold desert air. Around him, the competition grounds buzzed with activity. Million-dollar vehicles hummed to life, their crews running final diagnostics on computerized systems that calculated wind speed, barometric pressure, and earth rotation down to the millimeter. Marcus kicked his motorcycle to life. The engine coughed, sputtered, then settled into a rough idle that sent vibrations through the entire frame. Target Alpha 7 sat on a distant hillside, a steel plate barely visible through the morning haze. 1,100 meters. For most shooters here, a warm-up shot. Marcus rode slowly to his designated shooting position, feeling every eye on him. Someone had already posted a video online. The comments section was merciless. "This is what mental illness looks like. Dude's gonna kill himself when that rifle kicks. Can't wait for the fail compilation." Marcus killed the engine and deployed the kickstand. The sudden silence felt heavy. He could hear people talking, making bets on whether he'd even hit the berm behind the target. Patterson stood at the observation post with binoculars, his face professionally neutral but his posture screaming skepticism. Marcus chambered around. The first critical moment. With the engine off, the motorcycle was stable enough, but that defeated the entire purpose of a mobile platform. The real test would come later, but first he needed to prove he could hit anything at all. He settled into position, his body remembering muscle memory from thousands of hours behind a scope. Breath control. Wind reading. The morning air was relatively still, maybe 3 miles per hour from the east. He made his adjustment, feeling the familiar calm settle over him like an old coat. The shot cracked across the desert. Through the scope, Marcus watched the impact. Low and right, 6 inches off-center. The laughter was immediate and loud. Someone actually slow-clapped. Patterson's voice came through the radio speaker. "Mississippi. 2 attempts remaining." Marcus made his correction, chambered another round. The second shot felt perfect the moment he squeezed the trigger. The metallic ping of bullet meeting steel echoed back across the distance. "Hit. Target Alpha 7 confirmed," Patterson announced, and there was something different in his voice now. Surprise, maybe. Respect was too much to hope for yet. But the third shot would determine everything. Competition rules required at least 2 hits out of 3 to advance. Marcus needed this. He chambered the final round, settled his breathing, and fired. Another ping. Another hit. The laughter had stopped. Not replaced by applause or acknowledgement, but by something almost worse. Dismissive silence. "Lucky shots," Marcus heard someone mutter. "Let's see him do that 21 more times. Let's see him do it with the engine running." Marcus packed up his rifle and rode back to his camp area. His hands were steady, but inside, doubt crept in like poison. 2 hits meant he advanced, but barely. And tomorrow's targets would be farther, more difficult, and the real challenges would begin. Day 2 changed everything. The target assignments were posted at dawn. Charlie 3 at 1,800 meters, followed by Delta 9 at 2,100 meters, distances where even professional shooters with perfect equipment struggled. And for the wildcard category, there was an additional requirement that made Marcus's stomach drop. All shots must be taken with the platform engine running. The announcement sent murmurs through the crowd. For the truck-mounted systems with hydraulic stabilizers, this meant little. Their engines were designed to isolate vibration. But for Marcus and his ancient motorcycle, it was nearly impossible. Every competitor knew it. The organizers knew it. This was their way of exposing the absurdity of his attempt. Marcus spent the morning in isolation, running calculations in his notebook. The engine vibration created a frequency pattern. If he could time his shots between the pulses, if his trigger squeeze could happen in that microsecond window when the harmonics aligned, maybe, just maybe it was possible. The gallery following him to the shooting position had tripled. Word had spread online. The crazy motorcycle guy was about to fail spectacularly, and everyone wanted to watch. Camera phones were everywhere. A local news crew had even shown up. Marcus started his engine and let it idle. Through the scope, the crosshairs danced and jumped. 1,800 meters to a target that looked like a postage stamp. He needed 2 hits out of 3. The first shot went wild, missing by over a meter. The crowd erupted in vindicated laughter and knowing looks. Second shot. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the rhythm of the engine through his entire body. He became part of the machine, understanding its pulse, its frequency. When he opened his eyes, he didn't think. He just squeezed. The ping came back crisp and clear. The laughter died instantly. Patterson's voice crackled with genuine shock. Hit. That's a confirmed hit on Charlie 3. Marcus chambered his final round. His heart rate was steady at 58 beats per minute. The crowd had gone silent. This was the moment that would define everything. He fired. Another ping, louder this time, more definite. 2 for 3. Patterson sounded almost angry, as if Marcus had violated some natural law. Target Charlie 3 complete. 2 hits confirmed. For the first time since registration, someone started clapping. Then another person joined. It wasn't a standing ovation, but it was something. Recognition that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't luck anymore. If you're rooting for the underdog right now, if you want to see where this impossible journey leads, stay with this story. Because what happens next will challenge everything these people think they know about conventional wisdom. Marcus rode to the next position, and for the first time in 3 years, he felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Hope. Delta 9 sat at 2,100 meters on a ridge that shimmered in the afternoon heat. At this distance, the curvature of the Earth became a factor. The margin for error was measured in fractions of inches. One competitor had already burned through all 3 attempts and walked away shaking his head. Marcus approached the line with a crowd 3 times larger than before. The mockery had shifted to something else. Curiosity. Skepticism still, but tinged with the possibility that they might be witnessing something unprecedented. He started his engine and immediately felt the difference. The afternoon heat had changed everything. The motorcycle ran hotter, the vibrations more erratic. Through his scope, the target seemed to vibrate in multiple directions at once. First shot missed by 2 feet. The crowd murmured. There it is. Reality setting in. But Marcus understood something now that he hadn't that morning. The heat wasn't his enemy. It created updrafts, predictable air currents. The increased vibration had a pattern, just a different one. He spent 4 full minutes just watching, breathing, learning the new rhythm. Second shot. The bullet flew true across more than a mile of scorched desert air. The impact sound came back 3 full seconds later. Direct hit. Center mass. The murmuring grew louder. Patterson's voice had changed completely. That's 2 for 2 on Delta 9. 1 attempt remaining. Marcus didn't need it. He chambered the round anyway because that's what professionals did. They executed. They proved it wasn't luck. Third shot. Another hit. This time the applause was real. Not everyone, but enough. The woman with the camera crew who had mocked him on day 1 was now filming with a completely different narrative. This might be the most remarkable demonstration of adaptive shooting I've ever witnessed. But the day wasn't over. There was one more target. Echo 12. 2,400 meters. The maximum distance of the entire competition. Only 6 shooters in the entire field had successfully hit it in previous years. Marcus's hands were cramping. His back ached from the shooting position. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly. Everything in his body screamed to rest, to save this attempt for tomorrow. But momentum was everything. He could feel the shift in the crowd. They weren't laughing anymore. Some were actually cheering for him now. If he backed down, that fragile respect would evaporate. He rode to the Echo 12 position as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. The target was barely visible even through his scope. At this range, he'd be shooting at an idea more than an object. The professional shooters gathered to watch. Even his harshest critics had stopped laughing. They knew what this moment meant. If he hit this target with his engine running, from a motorcycle that cost less than their scopes, everything they believed about equipment and money and conventional methods would be challenged. Marcus started his engine and settled in. 2,400 meters. Almost a mile and a half. At this distance, Marcus wasn't just fighting physics. He was negotiating with it. The wind had picked up as the desert began to cool. 5 miles per hour, gusting to 8, coming from the northwest at roughly 45 degrees. The bullet would be in flight for nearly 3 seconds. In that time, gravity would pull it down, wind would push it sideways, and the earth itself would rotate beneath its path. Marcus made his calculations without computers, without ballistic apps. Just his notebook, his experience, and the knowledge earned from 10,000 hours behind a rifle. First shot. He watched through the scope as the bullet traced its arc. The impact kicked up dust 4 feet high and 2 feet left of the target. Mississippi. 1 attempt remaining, Patterson announced. The crowd had grown to over 100 people now. Even competitors who had finished their own attempts stayed to watch. The tension was unbearable. Social media was exploding. The live stream had over 15,000 viewers. Marcus's second adjustment was instinctive more than calculated. He was reading the desert itself now, feeling the air currents, understanding the harmonics of his motorcycle's engine like it was his own heartbeat. He chambered the round, settled into the stock, and found that place of absolute stillness that only snipers know. The shot broke clean. 3 seconds of silence. 3 seconds where the entire crowd held its breath. Then the unmistakable sound of metal striking metal echoed back across the desert. The explosion of noise was immediate. People were screaming, cheering, jumping. Cameras flashed everywhere. Patterson's voice came through cracking with emotion he couldn't quite hide. That's a confirmed hit on Echo 12. 2,400 meters from a motorcycle platform with engine running. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been running shooting competitions for 23 years, and I have never seen anything like this. Marcus didn't celebrate. He simply secured his rifle, killed his engine, and sat there for a moment letting it sink in. 3 years of grinding poverty. 3 years of shame and isolation. 3 years of being called washed up, crazy, delusional. And in 3 seconds, 1 bullet had answered every insult. The woman with the camera crew pushed through the crowd. Sir, I owe you an apology. What you've accomplished here is extraordinary. How does it feel? Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Feels like I remembered who I was. That evening, everything changed. Competitors who had ignored him came by his camp. Some wanted to examine his setup. Others just wanted to shake his hand. A representative from a major firearms manufacturer asked for his contact information. 2 military contractors asked if he'd be interested in consulting work. But the moment that mattered most came from Colonel Patterson. He approached Marcus's camp alone, carrying 2 beers. He handed one to Marcus and sat down on a folding chair. Marine, Patterson said quietly, I doubted you. I was wrong. Whatever happens tomorrow, you've already won something bigger than this competition. Day 3 was almost anticlimactic. Marcus hit 15 of the remaining 17 targets, finishing with a combined score that placed him 4th overall in the wildcard category. He didn't win the $50,000, but he won something far more valuable. He won his reputation back. The video of his 2,400-meter shot went viral. Within a week, it had 12 million views. Within 2 weeks, major firearms publications were calling it one of the most impressive demonstrations of adaptive marksmanship in modern shooting sports history. The comments section that had once mocked him now debated the technical brilliance of his engineering and shooting methodology. But the real transformation happened 6 months later. Marcus stood in a climate-controlled workshop in Colorado Springs, wearing a company polo shirt with his name embroidered on it. Advanced Precision Systems had hired him as their lead consultant for unconventional shooting platforms. His salary was more than he'd made in his entire 3 years of construction work combined. The prototype in front of him was beautiful. A next-generation stabilization system based on his original motorcycle design, but engineered with materials and technology he could have only dreamed about. 3 different military contracts were already pending, interested in mobile sniper platforms for rapid deployment scenarios. His ex-wife had called 2 months after the competition, not to reconcile but to apologize. Their daughter, who hadn't spoken to him in 4 years, had seen the video. She wanted to meet for coffee. That coffee had turned into regular Sunday dinners. She told him she was proud, that she finally understood why he'd made the choices he made all those years ago. Marcus received letters from veterans every week. Men and women who had been told they were washed up, that their best days were behind them, that they should accept mediocrity and fade away. His story had given them something to hold on to. Proof that one moment of courage, one refusal to quit, could change everything. On the anniversary of the competition, Marcus returned to that Nevada airstrip. He brought his original motorcycle, now retired and mounted in the lobby of his company's headquarters. He sat on the cracked asphalt where everyone had laughed at him, and he allowed himself to feel the full weight of the journey. 22 targets in 3 days. But really, it was never about the targets. It was about a man who refused to let the world define his worth, who understood that mockery only has power if you give it permission, who knew that the steadiest hands in the world mean nothing without the courage to pull the trigger. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If it moved you, if it reminded you that comebacks are real and second chances exist, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me what challenge you're facing right now, what people are laughing at you for believing in. Your story matters, and I want to hear it. And if you have ideas for the next story, let me know below. Until next time, remember, they only laugh until you prove them wrong.